Okay, hey people, how are we doing today, friends? This is episode, I think we're up to number 6, might be 7, going into double digits. Oh no, I won't be able to count then. This is part 1 of a 3-part series in these conversations, and we're going to be talking about grief, death, dying, all the things that people don't like to talk about because it makes them uncomfortable and have feelings that don't feel good. And I'm going to toss it over today to our new friend, Kari, who is a grief specialist, counselor, and let her tell me and you what it is she actually does. Kari?
Hi, my name is Kari Driskell. I'm actually an advanced grief recovery specialist. So I am not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. I'm kind of a teacher and educator of sorts. And so I'm also a life and happiness coach and currently getting a certified widow coaching certification too. But in a previous life, I used to be a middle school math teacher. So I've always been a teacher by heart. So yeah, that's and I'm a widow. It'll be 4 years in February for us. So
Nice. Okay, nice. That, that was awkward. Thank God, Dawn, you got the awkwardness out there right away. Good
well,
job, girl.
widows, we love black humor, so
Oh
dark
my
humor.
God.
So let's
Um,
bring it on.
Yeah, the funny thing is that my late husband and I actually connected first online through Black humor.
Oh.
He was born and raised in London, right? And the
Uh-huh.
British have a very dark sense of humor. Like sarcasm is an art over there. I swear it is like generationally put into their DNA, and their children have it from birth. And
Yeah.
as an American, it's not a thing. And I would find myself in front of people in so many rooms throwing it out there, and people would stop and
Yeah, but sometimes
what's
there's joy in that.
right? Yeah, on the inside, I'm loving it. But he was the first person I had encountered who started throwing it right back at
Right.
me. And I was like, oh my God, I do have a sense of humor. I am not broken.
Yeah,
Um,
we just had to find our people.
exactly, our people. Okay, so I have been a widow now for 6 or 7 years. And at the time, especially at the holidays, right? The grief process is there are steps, right? If you Google it, there are steps that supposedly we go through. Um, but I tackled it the way I tackle everything, which is I'm a leaper. So I was like, I am never going to get past grief unless I walk through it. Like, I was going to be a fire walker walking through my grief. So I
Mhm.
tackled everything pretty much head on. And like, I ordered a live Christmas tree to be delivered on top of the little twirly mountain I was living on in Westchester. And, you know, I'm going to decorate for Christmas. It was just me in the cottage. I'm going to decorate for Christmas. I'm not going to sit in my house, and I'm not going to cry about it all,
Mhm.
because he died in September. So
Okay.
it was still pretty
Yeah,
pretty
fall.
raw.
Mhm.
Um, and so I took it on like my job.
Yeah,
That being
to get
said,
through it. Mhm.
right, right.
Yeah.
So that being said, talk to me how, I mean, I love grief recovery. I love that. I wish I
Yeah.
had come across that phrase when I was in the thick of it, because I was like,
Yeah.
yes, it's it made it feel like that phrase makes it feel like, oh, it's a time period.
It is, and there's no time frame that you can put on it. It is different for everyone and unique and individual, just like we are, just like our relationships with our people are. Actually accidentally stumbled upon it, and so I I found out about it and got certified in it and got healed and completed from my relationship from my husband. Doesn't mean I forget him, doesn't mean I leave him in the dust, doesn't mean I stop loving him and all of that. It just means that the pain of the grief is not there anymore and I can fully just miss him instead of be grieving him. But I
Oh, I love
found it.
I want to capture that for a
Hmm.
minute,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that's an important thing for people to get, that you can let go of the pain and
Yeah.
just miss him instead of it being just in the grief, which is
Yeah.
so different, because I find my way right? It's more smiles at the memories
Yeah.
than tears.
Yeah.
It's being able to actually pointedly think about them.
Well, and when you cry, when you're healed, and when you do cry, because you will cry still, that doesn't eliminate that piece of it, but it doesn't control you anymore. You know how like when you would cry and miss your person, then it's like, fuck, now I'm out for like the next 4 days and in bed and not able to do anything. Like it's not like that.
Yes,
I can
thank you for
have that.
that.
Yeah, I can have that moment, cry, miss Eric, tell him I miss him, and continue about my day and be joyful and not have guilt that he's not here and I'm feeling joy without him. Now, but I just found it in February, and I have just been so passionate about sharing it. So I knew I needed like a shift in my work. I don't know how it was for you, but like there were certain aspects of my life that I couldn't go on with because it was tied to this old life and I wasn't finding joy in my work anymore. And I was a video editor and coach for on solopreneurs. And I just was a workaholic, and I didn't want to be tied to my computer anymore. And I needed a change, like a professional change. And so I took a sabbatical from work and really was like searching for what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go back into the middle school. Like I have a love for middle school kids. um, they enjoy my sarcasm, and I don't make them
I was
cry.
just going to say, it's when they really start understanding and testing out their own senses of humor and
Yeah,
sarcasm, right?
but you can
Yeah.
still like put a thumb on them,
Huh?
you know.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
I kind of thought maybe I'll go back into middle school, but be a counselor. And so I looked that up, and I was like, no, I mean, that's not for me. And so, but then the second hit, on Google was grief recovery. And as a educator, I just scoured it and I took it all out like a sponge. And I was like, this is a playbook. Like I had just become comfortable in my grief. And I just thought that that was normal and my new normal. And I just have to accept, she was like going to live with me for the rest of my life as an old friend. And it does not have to be that way.
Oh my
And
God, I love how you put that, because I remember somebody talking to me and saying, "Oh, Dawn, you're doing so well. How are you?" Like, I put myself out there. I remember my son who actually apprenticed with and worked with um, my late husband. It
Mhm.
was my son's stepfather from the time he was 11.
Yeah.
My son is 30 now. Um, and he was driving home. My late husband Marty was a production sound mixer, so he worked in films and TV, and they were working in Newark at the time. And my son was driving home. It was the day that Marty told him what was going on and what was going to happen. And my son was called me on the drive home from Newark back up here to the Capital District, and he was so angry. Um, but in his anger, he was like, "But Mom, I have to tell you, when this happens, you have to put yourself out there. You have to do it. You can't be alone. I know that this is really hard. Like, I shouldn't be telling you this right now, and I'm having a hard time with all of it. I'm just so fucking angry that this has to happen to him and to you. And I know he's your person, but please don't stop."
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, even though he was in his mid-20s at the time, I was like, okay, take this to heart. I'm still his
Wow.
mom, right?
That's so
Like,
mature of him.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I still make choices when he declares things. I will still go, yes.
Yeah.
So I did that more for him than for myself at the time. And people saw me doing that. Like, I was sending myself to conferences and things and meeting new people. And they were like, "How are you doing this? Aren't you still scared? And this is a whole new world." I said, "Yes, I am fucking scared to death. I am
Yeah.
still, so bitterly sad."
Mhm.
And I said, "But every once in a while, I have to turn to that and go, look, I know you're not going anywhere, but I need to put you over here for now."
Yeah.
Like, look at
Yeah.
me getting emotional.
Yeah.
Um, I can't right
It's a hard
now.
time.
Right?
Such a
Yeah.
hard
It's like
time.
you just need to sit over
Yeah.
here next to these books for a
Yeah.
while. I'll catch up with you later. I do not have time to get engrossed in you right now.
Yeah. I remember telling people that Eric dying, he died of a massive brain aneurysm, and pretty much it was instant, but he was kept alive by CPR until we had to pull the plug. I remember telling people that Eric dying at the time was the hardest thing I'd ever been through. Telling my kids was a nightmare. They were 8 and 11 at the time. But the hardest thing I've ever done, Dawn, and maybe you feel the same way, is learning how to live in his absence.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And so I kind of did all the things too. Like there was a period of time where I was sitting on the couch for 5 hours and wishing the couch would just absorb me. But I got back out there, and like you said, because I just felt like I needed to. I had these young kids and these dogs that got me up, thank God, in the
Oh
morning.
my God,
Otherwise,
the dog saved me.
they save you. And but you have to find something. But the thing is, you like do all these things, and people do think you're better, but maybe on the inside you're dying still, because a piece of you's died. And
Right.
it just sucks. It is a hard time, but it does not have to be that way.
Right.
Like you said, you had to go straight through it, and that is what we have to do. And at some point, grief is different for everyone. So it's like um, you know when you're ready to heal. And I kind of want to circle back to what you said and about the stages of grief at the beginning of our conversation. So, and I learned this later on with my work with the grief recovery, but the stages of grief is a misinformation for those of us who are grieving, who are remaining. So, grief is what happens after this. We have a loss, right? So, our husbands died, we're grieving, but the stages aren't for us. Like the stages of grief, that the 5 stages or whatever they are actually for people who are terminally ill. And so they go through the 5 stages of grief, not those of us who are survivors.
I am shocked and appalled.
Yeah, I
How do
know,
I
but
not
the
know
world,
this?
yeah, well, the thing is, like, grief is the most taboo topic of the Western civilization, like just English speaking world. We don't talk about grief because it's so uncomfortable for us. And
Yes.
when I found that out, I was like, just like you were like,
No, yes. I was like, no, I'm so
what?
confused. And
Yeah.
you're right, because back when my son was 2.5, my mom was dying of cancer. And I remember, my tight circle of friends when they found out. And I remember how often somebody would come up to me and ask me how I'm doing, but not look me in the eyes.
Yeah.
Like
Or when they hug you, they pat you on the back.
right. Like they can catch it. Like it's
Yeah.
contagious. Like now their parents are going to
Yeah.
die.
Or they say, God love them, that they come from a good place, but the
Oh my
stupidest
God.
things ever.
Hmm.
Like,
Yes.
oh, God has a reason.
Yeah. Well, fuck
Or
God right now and
yeah.
all of his reasons.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I want Eric here with me right
Right.
now. Like, it does
Right.
not make sense. This will not, and it just, they say the dumbest things, but it comes from a good place. They just don't know what to
Correct.
say.
Correct. Yes.
And it's probably best just not to say anything.
Right. Right. Just hug me. I can get that.
Yeah.
I can get
Just hug
beside that.
me. Give me an Amazon card so I don't have to go to the store and see stupid people. I can just order online.
I can remember texting with my son, oh, don't want to shock you. I went out into the real world today. Oh my God, Mom, are you okay?
Yeah. Or how about like you see someone and they're like, oh God, how are you doing? Well, how the fuck do you think I'm doing?
Yeah, right. I know you don't want to hear the real answer.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Go away. Like I'm in a good
Yeah.
mood and you're going to ask me a question. It's going to make me sad and I'm feeling good, which is why I'm in Target right now. Just leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
But they care. Like they want to
Yes.
know and they want you to do good, but not too good.
Oh my God.
Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, you
ma'am.
felt that, didn't
Yeah,
you,
oh,
Dawn?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, as if you are breaking some kind of law about
Yeah.
having a good and complete life at some point
Yeah.
down the road. Yeah.
I remember before I was a widow, I remember a friend of ours was widowed. And I remember Eric, my husband, coming home and being like, "Hey, guess who's engaged to be married? I'm so happy for her." And I remember the first thing I said, Dawn, was, "Oh my gosh, it's only been like 3 years." And now I like that haunts me. It
Right. You want to
haunts
go
me.
back and slap yourself at
Oh
that?
my God, it haunts me that, I mean, how fucking brave of her to open her heart, because when you open your heart to love, you also open your heart to grief, you know? And so for her to have lost her husband and be willing to love again, that's so powerful.
I can remember
Shame
how,
on me.
yeah, I can remember how terrified I was to tell people
Yeah.
when something started happening. So I am remarried. And this is how I prefaced it to people when it was happening. I was like, so I met a boy 40, 40 years ago, because I met him when I was in junior high. We went to school together. We were never boyfriend or girlfriend, or even traveled in the same circles in
Hmm.
school. So we were never like even like buddies or friends.
Yeah.
Um, but I was scared to death to tell
Yeah.
the people closest to me. I was like, okay, you just need to do this so that you can get through whatever they're going to throw at you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and at the time we were just texting, because
Right.
I was 3.5 hours away. Um, and I was like, so yeah, I have this texting buddy. I was
Right.
like, okay, oh, you're still listening. You're still listening. Woo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was
Like,
petrified of what people were going to say to me. And
I met a man for coffee after Eric had died, and I had a previous romantic relationship with this man, and we did have a romantic relationship after Eric's death again. He had served his purpose, let's just say that. But we met for coffee, and I remember being like, "Can we meet at this place?" Which is like an hour and a half away, because I didn't want people. And Eric, my husband, was a football coach in the area, and very well known in the community. And so I kind of felt like I was in a fishbowl, like everyone was watching. We'd go places, and they would know who we were, and we would have no clue. He was all over the news and stuff. And so I was like, "Can we drive? Do you mind meeting me at this coffee shop hours away?" Because I didn't want the judgment.
yeah,
And even the weird thing is, I didn't care either, but because of
sure.
Eric's role in the community, and because I had kids, and because I just didn't want to hurt my family or his family.
And that's exactly where it came from for me too. I was like, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I don't want to add the people that were closest to me had their own grief that they had to have gone through too.
Yeah,
Right. And
absolutely.
I didn't want to be throwing this wrecking ball into wherever they were in their process, was really where it was coming from me, and being
Yeah.
scared to death of what was going to happen when I started telling people.
Well, and the weird thing is too, Don, like, we're so conscious of that, and we might be ready to date before other people think we're ready, because it's our daily lives without our person. Like, everyone on the outside, they see them during football season, or once a week, or for special events, or for such and such. Like, we're dealing with it and processing it every single day, because it's such a habit. Our person is such a habit for us, a
Right.
normalcy. It's not that normalcy for them. Like, I remember I went to something of my daughter's at the school, and my mom and my sister came with me. And as we're leaving, I'm so proud of my daughters. I've got each one on each side of me, and we're walking through the middle school. And I turn around thinking, "Where's my mom and my sister?" And they're back there holding each other and crying. I'm like, "Are you guys okay?" And they're like, "We're just watching you and the girls. It's just you and the girls. Eric's not here." And I know, and I felt that, and my heart went out to them, and I appreciate that but we were okay, because we deal with this every single day. Like, you see us as a family how often, and now this brings it up for you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, okay, it registered things differently a little bit for me during that moment.
Yep.
It was our everyday.
Yep. Yeah. So tell me how does your work, how do you help people in that recovery?
Yeah. So oh, it's so good. It's like fucking magic. Like I was like, Eric being a football coach, I was like, there's no, previously, I was like, there's no playbook for grief, and I really hate that. Um, and then that time I just didn't know any better. And this program has been around for like 40 years. But people don't
Really?
know about yeah, but people don't know about it
Because we don't
because
talk about
we don't
it.
talk about it. And then when we do talk about it, it's like, oh, you just got to go through the grief. You're going to be okay. Time will heal. Time heal doesn't heal shit. Time just allows your grief to like become this familiar old friend. And then you're just, come on, let's just
Right.
always be a little bit sad. Come on, you know. Um, so this program, what it does, it says that grief is conflicted emotions, which is true. It's like a war in your heart. Like I'm so thankful for the love and the life that I had with Eric, but fuck, he's dead. How can he be dead? How can he leave me here? By myself to do all this solo parenting. He's supposed to be my partner. What about the future that we're supposed to get and that was robbed from us? All of that. So you have these conflicting emotions and we go immediately into this relationship review,
Oh my God.
right? Every moment of
Oh
our
my God.
lives
I could
comes,
show you
woo,
notebooks of
yes,
journaling.
yes. And so we start thinking, gosh, I wish I would have taken the peas out of the tuna casserole that night. Gosh, I wish I hadn't ragged him about the turf that he left on the floor. I wish I didn't harass him about not being an athlete because he missed the hamper, but he's a football coach. Like I wish we had taken more dates. So it's all these things that we wish that we had said or done different, better, or more that we're reflecting upon, and it just haunts us. The day Eric died, I had the thought that was so clear in my head. I was mad at him. And I thought to myself, God knows if anything happened to Eric, I'd be okay. Look at me now. I'm doing it all now. Anyway. And then 2 hours later, I got a phone call that he wasn't breathing and hurry quick. And it gives me, I mean, I still feel that. And, I'm embarrassed to say it wasn't the first time I had had that thought. We had been married for 15 years, and, but it's the first time I had that thought. And then 2 hours later, I got the phone call. I never saw him alive again. And that haunted me. It ate at me like a cancer. And I didn't know how I could go on. How terrible of me to have those thoughts. So we struggle with all of that stuff, but then we also struggle with all the unrealized hopes and dreams of a future that you're not going to get to. So you've got all of this going on, and that is grief. That's the war. And so what we do is a lot of times in life, we're this positive vibes only. And so society wants us to sweep it under the rug and pull up our bootstraps and go back to work or in life. And what we do is we pull it out and we pull out all the shit. It's like opening up a can of worms and being absolutely and completely honest, mainly with yourself.
Hmm.
And I help walk you through that. And we look through and sift through your life with your person, and we handle each and every moment and conversation that is weighing on your heart, and we deal with it properly so that you can permanently let go of that, because it's undelivered communications is really what it is. So I mean, it's
It's
quite powerful. It
no,
really
it
is.
sounds amazing. I wish I had had it.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I wish I had had it sooner than 3 years after Eric died, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing it. Like people are like, my husband just died 2 months ago. Is it too soon? And I'm like, are you ready? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, let's do it because right now you're in pain. Like this is uncomfortable work. It's emotionally exhausting, but I bet you're emotionally exhausted now anyway.
right, right. And this is going to take you somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
this is like the checklist. That's why I'm like, this is the playbook. And sometimes people are like, Kari, there's no playbook to grief. Like, this is a lie. You can't heal from grief. And I know why they say that. There was a time where I said the same thing. because you hang on to your grief, because how you can't see yourself not sad without your
Right.
person. You don't want to see yourself not sad,
Right.
but there is a better way. And when you're ready, it's there for you.
Amazing.
It
Amazing. I hope
yeah.
that there's people out there that hear this and seek you out. Because let's come back to, again, as a society in this country, we have done all we can to avoid talking, seeing everything. Children are not brought to funerals, right?
Yeah.
And it was not so long ago, right? That people had wakes in their living rooms,
Yeah.
right? And people died at home more
Yeah.
often than not.
You can do that. You don't
Right.
have to, yeah, like that actually is how I want to do. Like what I want. I don't want an actual service. I want it in my home. And I want
Right.
people coming to my home, and you can do that.
Right, but children aren't brought to funerals until like they're a certain age. So no,
Right.
now we're just going to throw a very weird, conflicted teenager into a room with a dead person, and they've never. Now it's traumatic, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with that. It hasn't been normalized. I
Yeah.
remember going to my grandmother's funeral, and there were kids run. I was 15, and there were small children running around, and I can
Yeah.
remember, older women, they were probably her friends, all standing around, and they were so upset by the little children. This is why children shouldn't be at funerals. I was like, in my head, I knew it was wrong. I was like, no, that's the way children are, that
Are.
they're being children, right?
Yeah.
How Why can't that be a normal thing? Because
Yeah.
that's
Well,
what
it should be.
happens, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and when you're talking to children, like don't beat around the bush. Don't say what it isn't, what it isn't. Say what it is. Like
Right.
don't be afraid to say the word died.
Right. Because
Dead.
children will process it in whatever stage they're at. And
Yeah.
all you have to do is give them that one sentence of information. They will maybe ask you a question or two, and then they're fine. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. And off they go.
Yeah.
They'll come back as they grow and ask
Yeah.
more questions. But kids
Sure.
really,
Yeah. I know.
right? And so I find it astounding that we don't talk about this. Like
Yeah.
not, we have eliminated an entire support system for when people are grieving,
Yeah.
right? If it
Oh my
was
gosh.
normalized so that people would be okay with showing up at your door and going,
Yeah. Well, and we don't do a justice to the kids, not even just like by not letting them come to funerals, but by also, oh, your dog died Saturday. Don't worry. Wednesday, we'll go get another one. The new Wednesday dog is not going to make them feel better about the loss from their dog on Saturday. Or, oh, you're sad? Go to your room. I'll give you something sad to be about. Go to your room, go be sad in your room, and when you're done being sad, you can come back out. You know? I mean, it's okay to process all the emotions on the human spectrum.
right,
It is life, and life has loss, and grief is inevitable. It's just part of it. And even moving, like you can experience, the thing is, this is what I've learned about grief too, just doing the work that I do now. There is over 40 different life experiences that you can have where you can feel grief. Death is just one of them.
right,
I mean, you've got divorce, you've got moving, even if you're leaving a job, even if you're looking forward to what's to come, you can still miss and grieve what you've lost,
right.
because
Oh,
that's a normalcy.
right. Okay. So, uh, just over a month ago, my son and I were downstate going through things. Okay. It's been 6,
Mhm.
7 years. We're just now going through boxes of stuff
Yeah.
and processing together.
Yeah.
Um, and we were driving somewhere. He's been with my daughter-in-law for almost 10 years. They've been married for 3, right? He's an only child, so I understand where he's coming from with his dedication to work, life, etc. She's one of 4, but they're very similar, and, like, they talked about it. We're not getting married until, we're almost out of our 20s because people grow and change so much. We wanna make
Yeah.
sure we still like each other. I was like, "They're such good grown-ups."
Yeah,
And at a
so
ti
mature.
Right? I mean, they just sold a business, they have rental properties, they've been collecting. They're, like, winning the whole adult thing. Well, she had talked back in the day about having, like 6 children, and then it was 3, and I was like, "Oh, whatever, man, I'm gonna be the grandma." That day when we were driving around, all of a sudden something hit me in the back of my head, and I said, "Wait, where are you guys on children these days?" And he goes, "Well," and I found out that they have pretty much talked and decided that they're not having any.
Yeah.
Talk about grief, man,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
And
felt that, didn't you?
oh my god, like somebody like a horse just kicked me in the chest. I
Yeah.
was like, and then I was like, I asked a couple of questions, and then a little while later we were talking about something, and I said, "Look," I said, "it's not gonna be a thing, but I'm gonna need a few minutes on this. I'm gonna need a little time to process the fact that this, all of these, I have your
Yeah.
child book collection. I saved your wooden train set.
Yeah.
What do I do? Like it took me
Yeah,
a
I'm
couple
sure
of
it did.
weeks to stop crying about it, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Like not nonstop, but somebody would say, "Hey, you're not quite yourself. What's happening?" I was like, you know what happened?" And then I'd be like, "What?" And
But yeah, yes, that is grief, right?
so right, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the death of a dream, a future that I've been envisioning now
Yeah,
for a few years.
I know.
Eh, so talk some more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so and the thing is because of life, I mean, you're gonna feel grief at any time. And if we don't let our kids express how they're feeling, then they learn to sweep it under the rug and not deal with it at all, you know? And so, going back to that, it's important to let our kids grieve and feel the things that they're feeling. Now, anytime that we grieve, a great way to process your emotions is not to tuck it away. Like, I applaud you, Don, for giving yourself that time to let that emotion and the war of emotions course through your body. Like, try it, that I can tell you to help yourself process grief is just, or to any emotion, is to let it wave over you and feel it in its depth so that you can feel something else later.
Right.
You did that. It took a couple of weeks for you,
It did. It
time,
did.
but
It did because at the same time, I'm watching a couple of my friends who have just
I
become
know.
grandmas for the first
Yeah.
time, and you're like, ah,
Well, yeah, it's this
where's
stage of
mine?
life. Yeah. Well, and that's a like an emotional need that you to share with a small person in this stage of life. Maybe you can fill that emotional need for yourself somewhere else, somehow else. You
Right,
know?
which is what I had that conversation with somebody, so I'm still trying to figure that out because I relate so greatly, like you were talking about, junior high kids. I relate
Yeah.
with kids on every level. I'm a yoga teacher. I did training so that I could teach it in the schools and a mindfulness program with kids. I have every summer with the youth program before COVID.
You have been
Um,
training to be grandma for a long time.
Right, right? Like, my inner child is a 13-year-old boy, and he's never far from me, you know?
Yeah.
So I relate really well with children,
Yeah.
and I was so looking forward to relating to that little person without all of the angst of being the parent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody else had that harder job. I was just gonna be like a support player in that,
Yeah.
like,
Bake cookies and play games and go on
right, and,
walks.
yeah, and teach them naughty things.
Yeah.
Um,
I taught my niece the other day. I guess she's a second cousin or something like that, but she's little. She loves to wear cowboy boots. And I said, "Oh, you got your shit kickers on." And she was like, "My what?" I was like, "That's another name for boots." And her mom was sitting next to me and she's like, "Aunt Kari." And I was like, "What are you wearing, honey?" And she was like, "Shit kickers." I was like, "Yes."
That's just a word. It's just a word. It doesn't have magical
Better
properties.
word.
Right?
It's a better word than boot.
Correct.
Come on.
Correct. It's a descriptor. We need to use the whole vocabulary. So how does someone find you?
I'm everywhere. No, I'm not. I'm not everywhere. I'm heavily on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram. It's a little bit more personal. I mean, I tell stories, but I'm on Facebook is where you can find me. I have a website, karidriscoll.com. I know it's very creative.
DawnScannell.com.
Right?
I can't forget what my website is really what that's about.
Right. And on Facebook, I'm Kari Driskell LLC. So, and on Instagram, I think I'm the Kari Driskell.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
fancy.
Yeah, and so I did just make an appointment with my financial person, my accountant. And so she was like, "Sign up to have a talk with me." And so I was like, "Okay, well there I'm going to be Kari fucking Driskell," but she got a kick out of it. But yeah, just find me on Facebook and on my website. If someone thinks that they're ready to start their process of the healing journey, I have a discovery call link that they can sign up there. But I also have a free gift on my website, and that is a video series called The Forbidden Discussion. And that's where I go further into detail on grief in general.
That's amazing. So now, do you work just individually? Do you do group work?
Right now, I'm working individually, all virtually, even though I have this beautiful office. This is my napping couch. Because on Tuesdays and Thursdays I work from 9 in the morning to 10:30 at night, and so I got a couple of hours built in for my second shift to recoup.
Nice.
Thank you. And yeah, so I work mainly individually, and it's a 7-session program is what I do. So it's about once a week, but life happens, so I get that. But currently am not offering groups yet. Keyword yet, but they are coming.
Yeah, because I feel like even though I have a full and complete life, and the whole grandma thing, I haven't mentioned I have 2 bonus boys. So when I came into this relationship, Chris was a late starter, although we're the same age. His 2 boys were 15 and 17 at the time. No guarantees they'll have kids either, but yeah. Perhaps I'll get bonus grandchildren down the road.
Absolutely.
But I sometimes think, wouldn't it be nice? I have all these great networks of women. I wish I had a little network of widows, though, still. Like, not even to cry, but to, like, at the stage I'm in, to just go, okay, what was the worst thing they ever did? Like, what pissed you off the most? Like, let's talk about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to just, and how silly it is that at the time it was a way different emotional mess. Right?
Isn't it nice though, like the gift of grief, the perspective that we have in life? Like, don't you feel like you probably feel like you live such a richer life because you're probably so much more intentional and not taking things for granted and mindful in the things that you do and the people you surround yourself with and the things that you say yes to.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that was my new person, Chris, is something that he at first was a whole new world for him, because I don't sit on things, right? when the emotions are yucky or something might be off, I don't sit on them. And it's like, hey, can we have a conversation? And I can remember the first couple of times he's like, oh man, shit, what did I do? And I said, no, 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 no. Why do you think it's about you? Number one.
Well, let's talk about your parents now. Did they say, "Oh, sit down, let's have a conversation with you," and then you're in trouble? Probably.
Yeah.
A little bit of trauma.
Yeah. And then I also have made up this new game on the other side of the really ugly part of grief, where I play a game with him every once in a while, and it's called Irrational Fears. So the first time I played it is when I initiated the game. I was going to Kripalu to do 6 weeks of training for working with littles and then junior high through college age kids with this yoga program. And I was like, let's play a game I'm going to call Irrational Fears. And we're sitting outside in the middle of the summer. And he's like, what? And I said, I'll go first so you can see how it's played. I was like, so while I'm away for 6 weeks, I am afraid that you're going to go, why, after living on my own for 10 years, did I ever ask a crazy person to move in with me, ask her to marry me? What was I thinking? And he starts laughing. He's like, what era is this coming from? I said, irrational fear. Now you know why we're playing. And I said a couple more things. And I said, now it's your turn.
Yeah, man, anxiety has a fun way of doing that to us. And when we go through something like widowhood, we just spiral in it, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's hard to stop. Like, we can stop now, but when you're in that deep place of grief, you can't stop it. And those irrational fears feel so real because fears are real for you.
Right.
But gosh, yeah, that's a fun game. I could play that game.
Right?
That'd be
I
fun.
found it to be like so useful. It's so useful. When I get to that crazy place in my head, it's like, oh, it's time to play that game.
Yeah. Irrational fears. Yeah. I remember the craziest thing I thought was, we're going to be homeless. My kids and I are going to be living in my van. Your brain just goes there to the worst possible thing. When COVID hit, I was so mad that Eric wasn't here because I thought Eric would know what to say. He would know how to talk me off the ledge. And then, okay, let's talk about COVID for a hot second. I don't know when we're done or anything, but
never.
Okay, fine. Well, when COVID hit, when our world stopped because our person died, our world stopped and the world kept turning, and we might have felt and had some thoughts about that. I don't know about you, but I did. I was pissed. And so when COVID hit, the entire world stopped, and they all had a problem with it. 2020, I mean, yeah, it's been a shitty year, but 2017 was by far, 2020 is nothing,
No,
I felt the same way.
No, absolutely. I remember people were freaking out, and I was like, I don't understand.
What's the problem?
Yeah, I was like, toilet
You're gonna
paper?
say no?
Toilet. You're freaking out about the toilet paper. Me, I just went and I was like, okay, so what if we can't get toilet paper? How many extra sets of sheets sit in that closet that we don't use on a regular basis? That's a lot of things to wipe my butt with when I cut them up. I was like, and they laughed. I was like, no, I'm being serious.
Yeah, seriously. We've been through harder shit. This is no big deal.
Yeah, dried pasta, beans, rice. We're not going to starve. Stop it.
But the rest of the world is having such a hard time with it because they haven't been through something really fucking hard. And so something like COVID brings it up for them. The world is grieving. When everyone got a dog, to feel better, they're coping.
Making bread.
Grief, right? They're coping with grief. Been there, done that. I bought a fucking camper, And so now they're all grieving, and COVID opens up the cans of worms without them knowing. So they may have been pushing everything away. And so everyone comes to me like, Kari, sometimes I hear, Kari, can you talk about how COVID is affecting you? Well, COVID's not. COVID's just the hair that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And it's
Right.
pulling up all the other bullshit that
Right.
you've been
That's what
tucking away.
right. That's what I've been having those talks with people. I was like, whether you want to admit it or recognize it, you this has been 8, 9 months of trauma.
Yeah.
Even if you don't recognize it, you haven't been in a car accident, etc. But this is traumatizing for people who don't recognize trauma.
Mhm.
Those of us who have been through some trauma
Yeah.
at any
Yeah.
point in our lives, right? It is trauma layered on top of trauma.
Mhm.
But like you said, we've been here before.
Yeah.
So it doesn't keep hitting us quite the same way, right?
Correct.
Because we stop, drop, and roll, do
Yeah.
what we need to do,
Yeah.
right? And then get back up because we know
Yeah.
that we can.
Like, my husband was a football coach over 20 years. Incredible coach, incredible human being. And I've stayed pretty quiet with the whole let the kids continue to play, have you guys felt that in your area? And I'm here in the Midwest, but let the kids play, hashtag whatever, let them play. And I'm like, God, I understand how important, I guess, more than just football, like the
Right.
brotherhood, the team, the bonding, like
The
it's more,
purpose.
yes, absolutely, the love, but it's also just football. Like I'm a football wife. I'm a coach's wife. And I'm saying that. Like my kids even say it too. They're like, I don't know what the big deal is. It's just football. Like I hope we have it because it's normalcy for them.
Right.
But it's also just football. But it's because we've been through what we've been through.
Right. Like, so maybe there's no football this year. We can have football again next year. And maybe you'll have a bigger appreciation for the football next year.
Well, it's so sad because my kid's a senior and they're not going to be able to play in their senior year. Well, you know what? I mean, I played sports in high school and in college back in the day, but that's not my life.
Right. Right. And right. The proms, the graduations, people were losing their mind over it. And I'm like,
Yeah. I don't think my life would be changed if I hadn't gone to prom my senior
right.
year.
Right. I didn't go to prom and I still am a fully grown up adult like that. I didn't.
Oh, oh my gosh, really? Dawn, let me hug you. You didn't go to prom? How are
I
you
know.
alive?
I know. I know. Like, yeah. Like,
I mean, I get it. Like, I understand. We want that for our
sure.
kids. I totally
Right.
understand. But I also want my husband here for my kids too.
Right. And
So,
isn't it also all of this is a teaching moment of resiliency,
yeah.
right? Like, so life is not on hold, but I also do feel like there are people that are doing that, like just waiting for the doors to be back open rather than, well, have you found the beauty in the
Yeah.
shutdown yet?
I
Because they're
have. I
right.
fucking love it.
Right. And they're like, it's a moment to stop and go, wow. So we didn't think everybody could work from home, but guess what? They can. So maybe we should change that a bit going forward.
Yeah.
Like maybe a lot of that needs to stay. Wow. People learned how to cook for themselves. Maybe, right? Um,
Me,
right.
relatable.
Yeah. So maybe when the doors open back up, you'll still cook more often than not. Maybe you don't need to go back to, you
Maybe I'll
know,
continue to say no
right.
to people and things because I kind of
Right.
like having less on my plate. But I didn't learn that from COVID. I
Right.
learned that after Eric died.
Correct.
And that was a
Cor-
hard thing to learn. And people are going through that process now. And I'm just like,
correct.
I love it. Great. Welcome
Correct.
to the club.
Yep. Yes. So there are things I think that have been pretty damn beautiful about the shutdown. And I really hope that we don't go back to what our normal used to be.
We can't.
I hope
I mean,
not.
you and I both know from what we've been through, your life will never be the same. And it's okay.
Correct. Correct. Because, and I know this is going to shock a lot of people. We didn't die with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
This world
yeah.
is for the living. And it's hard to hear that and when you're in the state of grief. People might be hearing this message and not having gone through what we've been through, but suffering because of the COVID experience. And they may not understand it, but I hope that they can hear us and just hang on to that for a glimpse of hope,
Right.
that it won't go back the way that it was completely. And that's okay. And you will be okay. And you'll be actually better for it. You just don't know it yet.
Right. Yeah, because each one of these kinds of experiences builds in a little
Yeah.
extra layer of resiliency in a person,
Yeah.
unless they're completely shut down to it. And yes, there are those people
There
too.
are.
And
There are. But I doubt that they listen to us. Um,
exactly.
so it's just
Exactly. And these conversations with friends are for the people who are listening. And honestly, if every one of these things that I record, if only one person who needs to hear it gets it,
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
That's one person who got it that the day before didn't
Yeah.
have the reckoning.
Yeah. And then you change their life, and then that becomes a ripple of effects. And that's a
Correct.
beautiful thing, Dawn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have to say, Kari, we weren't friends when we started this conversation because I've never spoken to you before today. But
Right? But now we're
right.
besties.
Oh, like I totally feel the same way. Like I want you to come over and have dinner at my house and meet my
Yes.
crazy dogs and be
And I
totally annoyed by them.
and yeah, and I'll put your little jackalope in my purse. Like you got on your screen and I was like, oh, she has a jackalope. I fucking love
That is
that.
just one of many odd things in my world.
I love it.
Like my glittery banner back there on my front
I
window.
saw the banner and I love the
Oh.
banner, but I can't see the details of the banner. Yes.
It's rose gold and very sparkly
I love it.
because I
I would
haven't
not
put.
I would not pan you as a sparkly person, banner type of person, but
I
I
am a.
do the ukulele. I'm digging their house.
Thank you. I had to try to learn to play some musical instrument because I moved into a house of music where, like, one of bonus boy number 2, Aaron, he plays, I don't know, like half a dozen instruments. He plays classical cello, he can play viola, he can play, he's plays bass in a rock band. Noah is a guitar god. Like he plays electric guitar, like
Uh-huh.
when I first came into this house, he would practice down in the basement on an amp, and it was right underneath our bed. And being 17, 18 years old, he'd go down there at 10 o'clock at night and do it. And I can remember telling people about that, and they're like, oh, that must be horrible. I was like, actually, I love it. It puts me right to sleep. It doesn't keep me awake.
I
Like
love it.
I go drifting off on this rock cloud of dreams. And when he
Yeah.
moved out and
Stairway
took
to heaven, baby.
yeah, when he moved out, I left this huge void in
Oh,
like my nighttime routine.
you
Um,
were grieving it.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Um, so where was I going with this?
The
How did that
music.
come?
You had to learn how to play ukulele.
Oh, right. So and Chris plays guitar, and I was like, I don't play anything. Like I've never played a musical instrument in my life. I tried to play violin when I was like 7 years old. I brought it home and acted like I could play it and
Yeah.
broke strings, and my mother was really upset, and I went back to school the next day and said, no, this is an instrument of horror. I can't do this. And
I'll
that was
stick to
the
the
end of it.
recorder.
Yeah. No, I didn't even play that, man.
Really?
Really?
Oh man, no prom, no recorder.
I
God,
know.
terrible.
I'd like to go back
How
and
are you a
revisit.
functioning adult?
I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to have a different conversation with a friend. How am I surviving on this planet? Yeah. Well, there's a saying I have, which is there is more than one thing to do every damn thing. Have a life.
I feel like maybe you were a math teacher once upon a time.
Oh my God, you're a math teacher. Embarrassing to say, in high school, I had to take algebra 1 and 2. There was a 2-year program for those of us who were not math adept. And I struggled through that. So in Albany, my age, I don't know, you're probably much younger than I am. I'm 59. I just turned 59. So when I
Awesome.
was growing up and going through the school system, it was, oh, new math. And this is how we learn. My brain doesn't function under whatever that new math rules were. It wasn't until I was out of school, right? New math was all about, you can't just have the right answer, show your work. How did you get, I can't do that, but I can get the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why and how my brain fixes
that's
it.
called intuition.
Oh,
And you have math intuition to get the right answer. My daughter does the same thing. And yet all of her teachers require us to show our work, which
so horrible.
It's like going with your gut instinct. But the thing is, like, in life, we should follow our gut and instinct, our intuition. But no. We want to get logical. Everything happens for a reason. Well, I disagree. I think many things happen for a reason, and sometimes shit just happens.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. What lesson do I need to learn? Hurry up, let me learn it. I need to move on from this shit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And good God, Kari, I'm so glad you came into my life because intuition is pretty much my guidepost to everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So anyway, I could talk to you for the I could talk to you for the rest of the afternoon. Please Zoom with me again sometime when we're not recording. And yeah, so these conversations with friends is sometimes how Dawn finds new friends, apparently. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Really.
If anybody who's been listening wants to get in touch with Kari, you should be able to, because I'll be linking to her on the Facebook. But if you are having trouble, just hit me up and I will hook you up on Messenger so you can get in touch with Kari. You know how to find me because you're already listening to me. DawnScannell.com. That's how I find me. Kari, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for being the first conversation about death, dying, and grief. I feel like, if people were scared of this conversation, I hope they're now sitting at home going, what the heck was I scared at? I just had the best hour of my life.
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
Let's talk about death, dying, and grief. Woohoo!
Yes. I'm
Dark
having
humor. Here we come.
I am never having an Oscars party again. It's always going to be a death, dying, and grief party at my house.
And I'm invited.
You're invited. Please wear your favorite sparkly dress.
Right.
Have a really wonderful rest of your day. And I will be in touch very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.